100%. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, a lot of these dogs, you look at, they're freaking athletes, you know? They're way stronger, they got way more endurance than I do, you know? So you're not gonna tire them out physically. And if anything, just like an athlete, right? If you try to rely on that, you're gonna make a stronger and a stronger athlete that's harder and harder to wear out, right? But, you know, again, yes, some of these dogs are smart, but they're not like human smart. Like we could outwit these dogs all day long with training and things like that. And yeah, that's what drains them. That was a good clip page. It's Wednesday morning. We're getting our morning sessions in with the dogs, our morning walks in with the dogs, because we've got a send home lesson today. This morning, in case anybody saw, we're celebrities now. We're featured on WKYC, got a couple text messages. The text message was from my mom. She said, hey, can I get your autograph? You were on the news this morning. And I said, haha, yeah, sure. So we're gonna get these sessions in. We're cruising with Stanley right now, and that's it. So Sophie's one of our newer board and trains we have in right now. She's only been here for a couple of days. And you know, first couple of days with any of the board and trains, as you guys know, is all about shaping our basic commands. So nothing too crazy. We're just starting to shape and create the expectation of the dog. So right now we're doing some basic heeling inside. Obviously we do this outdoors as well. She's very spazzy. Come on. Just starting to create the expectation of keeping that attention on me, staying on a loose lead, obviously, and paying good attention to me. In addition to that, we obviously are shaping our sit command. Typically no verbal command as we're doing this initially. We're just creating that expectation that upward pressure on the leash means to put your butt down on the ground. Okay. Same deal, upward pressure on the leash, meaning put your butt down on the ground. Okay. Upward pressure on the leash, butt on the ground. Okay. Little hop. Sophie, you're a little alien. So what? You're a little alien. Okay. 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 So we shape our bed stays here. So teaching pressure towards the bed means to hop up on and stabilize. I don't care what she does once she's on it. Let her rub around and itch around and all that good stuff. get a little extra stability by working that sit on the bed. Nice. Okay. Slow you down, girl. Hey. Hey. Okay. Okay. There we go. Okay. So in a lot of cases, especially with some of these Frenchies, Bulldogs, some of the more spazzy, littler breeds, some of that compulsiveness you see with the rubbing all over the bed and the compulsively itching and all that kind of stuff. I usually let them do it a little bit at first in case they genuinely are just itchy. But sometimes what it is just stress responses that the dogs show, you know, just in response to not knowing what's going on and just taking that anxiety and stuff and just throwing it into some sort of compulsive behavior. No different than we'll see with dogs that have crate anxiety that may display things like paw licking or, you know, anxious whining or things like that, right? So sometimes if I do notice it's really persistent, I will interrupt it like we did there when she was really kind of itching a lot, just with little pops on the leash, nothing super aversive, just enough to say, hey, focus back in here. Okay. So that's kind of what we're looking to do here, is just slow her down a little bit until her mind is just racing like crazy. I want to see her just focus in. Hey, hey. I know. Okay, just like that. Good. You see the attention and engagement is now picking up after blocking some of those habits here. Okay. But this is kind of it. Again, we're just creating expectations of what it is that we want the dog to do over the course of typically that first week that they're here. Okay. Good. Good job. Hey. Good. Okay. Things like adding in the affection, obviously one as a reward, but two is a little bit of a distraction here as well. I want to see that once I put her into position, if I go to praise, obviously I'm keeping it pretty calm here right now, but I want to see her maintain command while I'm doing so. Good job. Okay. Getting Sophie into her zen zone here. Good. Okay, we can go back to doing some of our sits like that as well. Good. There you go. Okay. Now Sophie came to us with a lot of anxious behaviors. Sit, and very little ability to focus through those anxious behaviors. So things like this are massive for her. It's just teaching her to work through some of that stress.
Ads.
Love it. Sometimes I watch stuff like this and think how small I am compared to some people. I want music like this behind everything. Cut me off like that. Is that it? Are you fucking kidding me? He had me talk for like 9 years about everything else.
It's short. He's got like the long legs and then the stumpy little body. Warthog vibes.
waffles.
I'd be categorized non-social if I was a dog that came here. I'm pretty sure I would be. Maybe I'd be supervised.
Yeah, I don't know. Some days I'm
Ground pounder. This one's actually me. That's just me. I'm a folk legend.
Here, let me get the slow-mo swirling it around first. And then just wait. Just wait. Just wait. Are you super close? Look, wait, here it goes. All right, if you guys want, you can give him a nice, easy, calm petting here. He's like, I'm supposed to pay attention to this guy. And same deal, no commands or anything right now. The only thing I care about is if he jumps, I'll correct him for it. He's a ham.
He puts his neck backward.
Yeah.
Did you get a bath?
He did yesterday.
Oh, how would he love that?
It's nice and soft. It's like, who's over there? Give me one more minute, buddy. All right, so in a minute here, we're gonna get started with things. I always tell everybody, first couple minutes can be a little messy, obviously, with you guys here again. You know, he might be a little confused or thrown off. No big deal if he is, we'll work him through it, obviously. So, Atlas, come here, bud. All right, I'm gonna have you guys take a seat over there. Get comfortable. All right, come here, bud. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off with a bed stay here. So really straightforward. Bed just means to get onto a stationary object, hold that position until he's told otherwise. So I'll walk him up to the bed. Bed. Good. Once he gets on, I'll tell him good. Give a reward for that. Then drop the leash and leave him there. We're gonna be using a combination of the e-collar to enforce, no, not doing the command. Come on, bud. Bed. Good. As well as the food rewards if he does it correctly. And obviously, as you saw, if he breaks command, we're just marking with no, giving a correction on the e-collar, then I'm just taking him back and putting him back into position here.
Okay.
Okay. Whenever I go back and want to release him, okay is our release word. Just lets him know he's free from that position. Bed. Good. First couple repetitions I do here will be nice and short. We're just focused on just getting him into the motion of doing it with you guys present. Once he's doing well with it, we'll start pushing that duration and having him hold it for longer periods of time. I always say the bed stay, getting into command is important obviously, but holding it for prolonged periods of time is even more important. So we've done a lot of these where we've had him hold it for 45 minutes, an hour, stuff like that while I'm working or taking phone calls, stuff like that, which is really, really great mental stimulation. Just kind of keep him out of the way and help manage him a little bit. Okay. Come on. Bed. Good. Yeah. Yeah. He's pretty focused once you get him dialed in, you know?
He wants to learn. He wants a job.
For sure. That's the breed in general, and that's why they tend to get themselves into so much trouble sometimes, because they don't get that mental stimulation, you know?
Then they cause trouble.
Yeah.
Big enough. We did it all.
Sure.
While he was here.
Yep.
To put like a flirt.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. Okay. For sure. Come on. Bed. No. Bed. Good. Same deal right there. I was a little distracted by what they were doing up there, so I gave a correction, then helped him into command.
How quick are you on the correction? Just as soon as you see it?
Yeah, right away when I see it. So usually once I give that initial command, I'll give him a minute, let the command breathe for a second, see if he figures it out or not. Once I see he's made a commitment to either doing it or not doing it is when I'll either reward or correct if I need to. Gotcha. And then once he's in command, the second he breaks command is when I give a correction. So right now, the second one of those paws were to come off of the bed is where I would tell him no and give a correction for that.
Gotcha.
Interviewing it both verbal and color at the same moment.
Kind of. So no comes right before the correction. So our no marker is to identify the mistake. The correction is what actually reinforces it, right? Now the reason why that's important is because there's going to be times in your day-to-day that this thing is not in your hand at all times, right? Maybe it's sitting over on the kitchen counter or something, and say you're working a bed stay with him. Because we use this marker system, if he were to break command, even if I didn't have that thing on me, I could tell him no right away and identify that mistake and essentially take a picture of what he's doing in that moment. I could go get my remote, give the tap, and he'll still know that that correction was for whatever he was doing when he heard no. Same deal, going back, picking up that leash. Okay, then releasing him.
How much time do you recommend reinforcing what he's learning if you're at home practicing this?
So it's not so much about needing to do tons and tons of sessions. It's more about applying it into your day-to-day where you need it, you know? So at the end, we'll go over homework, but there's really just gonna be like 3 main things you're working on. So you'll do a little bit of walking once a day. It doesn't have to be crazy long, it can even be 5 minutes.
Yeah.
A long duration session on his bed or in a down, which like I said, about 30 to 40 minutes on that. And that can be while you're doing something else, cooking, eating, cleaning, whatever, you know? And then typically I recommend like 10 minutes of just working some commands, you know? And that's for the first week. And then after that first week, when you guys come in for your follow-up, we'll look at, okay, cool, what did he do good with? What did he have issues with? We'll isolate those things, work through those things as we need to. And then from there, you kind of just focus on the things you need to focus on, you know? Now, as we're combining these commands, a couple things to note. One, I would say slow down as much as you can. The quicker you move with this, the more he's gonna start anticipating. So I try to jump the gun on that come command, stuff like that. So really let him just chill there in between repetitions, obviously. Second thing, when it comes to calling him off of the bed or out of a downstay or anything like that, if I'm gonna do a come command out of a stationary position and he hesitates the first time I say, like we saw that last repetition right there, instead of correcting right away, I'm gonna give the command 1 additional time. And the reason for that is because anytime we work downstays or bed stays, if he breaks command too fast, we're always correcting him for it. So it's natural that he's gonna hesitate a little bit the first time, and I wanna just give him that little extra help there. Atlas, come. So with our walk here, keep in mind our walking command is just our come command. That's it. So when we're doing that following inside, you're working the exact same thing with him when he's outside. The only difference is you have this thing in your hand, right? And one of the biggest traps people fall into is they try to use this leash to joystick the dog around too much, right? If you're finding yourself needing to physically pull him around, you're doing something wrong, right? So what we're gonna do, come, is we're gonna start walking here. I'm gonna stay loose, no, on the leash. And if he starts coming in front to get over to you guys, I'm just gonna give a correction for that. And same deal, I expect the beginning of this to be a little bit messy, just because obviously he's pretty amped up that we're now out and moving. I think he knows that. Yeah, and it's more so, it's not the distractions, he's good with all that. It's more so just the fact that you guys are there, I'm here, and he wants to keep his eye on everybody.
Yeah.
So there's definitely places you can give him a break and let him sniff around and explore and go to the bathroom and all that. Usually what I'll do is I'll structure my walkout into 3 sections, right? So I start with healing, keep it controlled, right? Stuff like that. From there, somewhere in the middle, I'll give him a break. I'll tell him okay, let him sniff around, go to the bathroom, do whatever he wants to do. And then we'll end with the healing again to kind of refocus him back in.
He has no care about other dogs, which is good.
Yeah, he's been pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Passing other dogs hasn't been a huge issue for him, so.
That's good.
Good.
Do you ever get weirded out with other people when it's a tight sidewalk? Or?
Not particularly, but we create distance. Like you'll see even as we pass like these kids and stuff up here, I'm gonna kind of just arc around and create distance. There's no reason to like push it too much.
Yeah, especially with a big eater.
Yeah.
Like
My rule of thumb generally is when I'm walking him, I'm gonna create enough distance where on a loose leash, if he were to try to pull over or lunge, he couldn't get all the way to whoever it is. And particularly, you know, like what we see at the beginning of the lesson, like inside of the facility, kind of translates to what we see at the beginning of the walk outside of the facility, you know? Because it's a different picture. And again, now he's walking with 4 people around him, and there's another dog behind him, and there's all this other stuff going on. It can be challenging for them to focus in initially.
Yeah.
Where this is like 10 times more annoying than he usually is on the walk.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So it just take a little bit for him to kind of settle down into the groove with it.
Yeah.
And some of this kind of stuff is just a matter of just getting you guys working with him for this first week, you know, so that he kind of continues to chill out and see you guys a little bit different, so this stuff becomes easier for you, you know, and you'll see it continue to improve for you at home as you see that. Perfect.
Wow.
Again, slowing down, he's slowing down with you. And again, I don't mind looking. He's like, oh my God, there's a kid playing basketball over there. So exciting, right? Like, as long as he maintains position.
How should his shoulders be like level with my
So
legs? What do you want to look for?
Yeah, so when it comes to our come command or our leash walking or anything like that, don't look so much at this like rigid position that he needs to maintain.
Yeah.
It's much more about attention, right? So do you feel like his attention is on you, or do you feel like you're losing him, you know? And right there where you went to go pull back on that leash, that's where I would have given a correction.
Okay.
So anywhere you feel like you need to pull with your leash, you typically should be using your e-collar in that scenario. So it's a lot of this is you're kind of going off of feel with the walk. You know, you want to feel like you're in tune with your dog, right?
Yeah.
So only when you're walking them can you really feel where those variations are exactly. Because like right there, he went to go kind of check something up and he fixed himself right away. So I don't want to preemptively correct for that until he's actually made the mistake.
Yeah.
If you're ever walking him and you feel like he's just like really tuned out, you know, and you're having a hard time focusing him in, sometimes stopping and doing a long down or something can be beneficial too, because it's going to give you something much more clear to look at and like focus him in on. Like this is black and white if he's doing it or not. Where the walk, because it is kind of off of feel a little bit, it's a little harder to be like perfect with your timing, you know. That's all of it, you know.
Yeah.
It's funny. I tell everybody, like, you could take one of my dogs, and if I were to just like give them to you and just be like, here you go, have fun. If you didn't know what you were doing, it would be terrible.
Yeah.
You'd call me in an hour and be like, come get him, you know?
That's a good way to put it.
Dog training is not something you just take and like it's on the dog and they're just trained, right? It's communication.
Yeah.
And it's like a language. If you don't know the language, you can't communicate with them.
Absolutely.
They're not going to get it. Looks good. He's doing really good with you. He's focused on you really well. You could tell you're his person. Really, all you got to remember is obviously if he does it, the sequence of just telling him good and rewarding. If he does not do it, the sequence of telling him no and giving a correction for that, right? So obviously the walk, you guys were having issues with that at home. We talked about kind of how to address that. We just kind of see how he has to, or how he does with it this first week, obviously. Inside of the house, were there any major issues you guys were having with things?
Just when people would come over, or like when we come home, like you saw the jumping excited. So having a down stay when we get home is gonna be huge.
There's going to be 2 ways you're going to want to look at any issues you're having with him, right? So there's the management side of things, and then there's the actual addressing the problem side of things, right? So management would be any time we're using a command to essentially keep him away from a situation, right? So guests are coming over using a bed stay just to stop him from like jumping all over them or being annoying or anything like that. Stuff like that, right? The stopping the problem side of things is just isolating behavioral issues and just correcting for those behavioral issues. So when I brought him in here and I just corrected for the jumping, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of want to ask yourself in any given scenario you're experiencing, do I need to manage him right now, or is there an actual behavior that I can just stop?
Okay.
Right? Jumping obviously is a clear one you can correct for at any time, right? Excessive barking out the window is another clear one that we'll see people will, like, instead of telling the dog no when they're barking out the window, they'll tell them come or something, right? And again, come would be management in that situation. It's just preventing him from doing it.
Yeah.
Telling him no would be actually stopping the problem. You always want to lean towards just stopping the problem in those scenarios.
Yeah, that's a good
Right.
thing that we probably would have thought about later and not
Yep.
ask questions. So that's a good call out.
Yep. So be aware of that, you know, and you know, you figure there's 24 hours in a day, really only maybe an hour of that is going to be training time. You know what I mean? The other 23, I know, bud, chillax. The other 23 hours of the day, he's just gonna be hanging out, right? He's gonna be being a dog, just living in your house. And in those times of the day, 99% of the communicating you're gonna be doing to him is going to be setting a boundary and just correcting for a behavioral issue, right? Did he ever do any sort of like counter surfing or things like that?
Yes, but yeah, with our dining room.
He would do it a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it is within, if it's not in the dead center. Where,
Yeah. He's going for
He's
it.
not going to jump up on things. He is
Bill try to get it.
He's tall
of opportunity.
Yeah.
If it's there,
Uh-huh.
he will take it, but he doesn't go out of his way.
Yep. So any of that kind of stuff, if that's something you've seen in the past, usually, no. Come on. Bed. Good. Down. So any of that kind of stuff, usually I recommend at some point in the first week, you want to try to set up that scenario where you're going to be prepared for it, right? If you try to wait for it to just like organically happen, you're going to miss it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then he's going to get away with doing it, and then you can't do anything about it. So I usually recommend, you know, whenever you're fixing dinner or whatever, put that plate down, walk into the other room for a minute, and just kind of watch, you know, and have your e-collar set pretty high, and if he goes for it, just correct him for it, right? And try to be as controlled as you can about any of the behavioral issues you're used to him doing, so that you can be prepared to address them when they happen.
Gotcha.
Right? Guests coming over the house, again, jumping, that's an easy one. We just stop it with a correction. Past that, like we talked about, anytime I have guests come over my house, I still use my bed stay. And not because my dogs would be jumping or anything if they weren't on it, but they would just be excited and all underfoot and stuff, and they're not doing anything wrong that I could correct them for, but I just need them like out of the way for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's a great routine to set with him, you know, whether he's a little unsure of the new person coming in or the kids you had said, or if he's just really excited, it's somebody that he really likes, you want to make sure that you're obviously setting him up for success by making him hold that, wait till the energy level settles down a little bit, then release him to hang out and be a part of things, right? We talked about at nighttime, obviously, getting on the bed, right? Or if you want to keep him outside of the bedroom, totally fine as well. But if you notice any of those problems, being in a position to correct those as well. So, as far as homework assignments, there's 3 things I recommend you do every day with him, right? One is going to be a structured walk once a day. It could be as long or as short as you want, but you're just working your healing and stuff, right? Just getting him out, you know, seeing new places, getting used to working with him and working around different types of distractions. Thing number 2, again, a long duration session. So basically what we're doing right now, 30 to 45 minutes, real long, right? Set the timer on it, make it hard for him, you know? We want to get his brain working through that, right? The third thing is you're going to do one roughly 5 to 10 minute long training session where you just work a little bit of all the commands, use some treats for it, keep it fun, keep it engaging.
Okay.
Right? Past that, the most important part is just setting your boundaries throughout the day. So correcting for the things you don't want them to do, and then giving the information where you do want them to do things.